It's time for Recipe of the Day. We are somewhere in between Thanksgiving and Christmas right now, and I keep thinking about all that luscious, delicious turkey skin. I love that during the holiday season when we have those big dinners, and especially if I'm the one cooking, because I can tear off little bits of it while the turkey's resting and make sure I get the best, crispiest bits. Yeah, I take the best, crispiest bits for me. I am not sharing those, but in between those special holiday dates, when I'm craving that luscious, wonderful, crispy skin, I turn to bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, and I pan roast them, which is what I'm telling you about today. So I will say that this will actually work with boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You don't get that crispy skin, but you do get some really nice brown, like crispy meat on the outside edge. And so that's really good. They take a little bit less time to cook, but if that's what you have and that's what you like, they're going to work this way too. And I'm pretty sure once you do it once, you're never going to cook them another way again. So the only thing I'll say about the difference between the ones that have the bone and the skin and the ones that don't is, of course, as we've talked about before, the ones that do not have that have had the skin removed and they've had the bone cut out, and then quite often they're put back onto the tray that they're sold on, kind of wrapped around where that bone was, which makes them into these little bundles as opposed to a larger flat, almost like a chicken cutlet. And if you want these to cook really quickly, anytime you want boneless, skinless chicken thighs to cook really quickly, then I advise that you unroll them and cook them flat, because then they're quite thin and they're going to cook really fast. But for this recipe, because it was designed for the bone in and skin on, if you have the boneless, skinless, you're going to keep those in those little bundles. So they have a similar shape to the ones that have the bone in, and they're going to cook in a similar amount of time to that. But if you're in a hurry and you want them to cook faster, then unroll them and you'll just cut down the cooking time. Having said that, the cooking time is not very much because we are starting in a hot skillet and then we're moving to a hot oven. So what you'll do is get out a large oven-safe skillet. That means that the handle is oven-safe, right? Not plastic. Now, often if your skillet is not oven-safe, if it has a handle that would not go in the oven, you can wrap it in a double layer of aluminum foil and that will protect it. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I know that I've done it before and I've seen that in reputable cookbooks too. So it is something you can try if you are willing to risk it. But otherwise, like a cast iron skillet is going to be what's best here. And that's what I use. I will link to my nice big one. I have this really big cast iron skillet that I love, and it's perfect for this. And you're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit before you start. So preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. As you're preheating the oven, pull the chicken out of the fridge so it's starting to like come to room temperature, right? And then you're going to season the 4 7 to 8 ounce bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. You're going to season those with salt and pepper on both sides. It's about 3/4 teaspoon total between the 4, and the same amount if you're using the boneless, skinless. It's the same amount of salt and pepper. You're just kind of like liberally seasoning both sides. Okay, now you're waiting until your oven is fully preheated, and that's giving your chicken a little bit of time to like not come right up to room temperature, but just not be quite so fridge cold, right? And then once your oven is ready, you're going to put your skillet on the stove over medium-high heat, and you're going to get it really nice and hot, and then you're adding in a tablespoon of olive oil. Give that a quick swirl around. It should heat up really fast, and then you add your chicken thighs skin side down, and you leave them alone for a few minutes. You really want them to get really nice and brown underneath. And if you try to lift them up too soon, they're going to stick. So you really want them to have browned a bit before you start trying. So at least 3 minutes before you take a peek. It's probably going to be more like 4 to 5 minutes. Then once that skin is nice and brown, or if you're using the skinless, once that meat is nice and brown underneath, then you're flipping them over. So it's best if you could just flip them with some tongs, like they've already kind of released because they've browned well, and you can go with tongs and they'll just flip over. But sometimes your skillet isn't quite as releasing as that, or the chicken's not coming off. I like to use a metal beveled spatula. It's like sharp almost at the edge. Even like a fish spatula will work because it's nice and thin. So it's getting right under the chicken and really close, almost like scraping the pan like a knife, so that if anything is stuck, it's going to end up more on the chicken side than stuck to the pan. pan side. You see what I mean? So if you have a spatula like that that's kind of sharp, then you want to go scraping the pan under the chicken to flip it. Ideally, it's going to flip just with those tongs. You're not going to need to do that, but it's good to know that you have this option when something is a little sticky, you know? Okay, so you flip those pieces of chicken over and then you transfer that whole skillet with the chicken into your 400 degree Fahrenheit oven, and they're cooking in there until the internal temperature is 160 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be somewhere between 6 to 8 minutes, possibly 10 minutes if they're a bigger piece of chicken. And you know, sometimes our ovens are a little bit off and we are doing chicken with bone in the middle, which can take a little bit longer, and each piece of chicken is different. So you just want to make sure they're done. I like to just stick an instant read thermometer into one of them and check, or cut into one and see if it's not pink anymore. If it's not pink anymore inside, you're good. Now, the final temperature that we want is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to come after we take them out. So once they're at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, take that skillet out of the oven and then transfer the chicken to a plate, and they're just going to rest for a few minutes. And I would say give them another little test, make sure they're at 165 degrees Fahrenheit, or cut into one, make sure you feel comfortable with that, and then they're ready to eat. That is it. Heavenly chicken skin. Such a great feast to keep us happy in between Christmas and Thanksgiving when we're waiting for more turkey skin. You know what I mean? I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there, or find it in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. And hey, just a quick note. I'm on a recording hiatus right now, so for the next little while, I'm replaying episodes from the archives, including this one. If you heard me mention a holiday, a season, or something going on in my life that seemed a bit off, that's why. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're enjoying these older episodes. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.